Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Dailies on Equa Television, where we keep you updated with all the news and current affairs from our paper. I am Sana Elisha Dasho, and I'll be doing the program together with Rachel Tazi. Good morning.
Good morning, Sana.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm great. How was weekend?
It was great.
All right. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Well, to our viewers at home and wherever you're watching us, remember you can view our stream live on Facebook and on YouTube, and then drop your comment and your views as well on any of the story that is of interest to you this morning. And let us go into the papers, starting with the Leadership newspaper.
On Leadership newspaper, the big story, Edo governorship primary, how presidency arm-twisted APC leadership orders. Confusion trails Idahosa, Apeghula Dikeri emergence as candidates, and then you can find details on page 4. We have a fact check that said, what did Atiku say about Tinubu's policy? And also NDLEA intercepting drugs in cargo from New York. This is trending. You can find details on page 2. Federal government dismisses PDP governor's call for Tinubu's resignation. And on oil theft, police invite 3 Indians over arrested vessel. Again, bandits killed 12, razed 17 houses in Kaduna State. Fuel scarcity looms as tanker owners withdraw vehicles today. We saw that trend starting since last week, and then we are seeing that they are serious about it. And that's all the news on Leadership newspaper.
On the Vanguard newspaper, rising cost of living may lead to social unrest in Nigeria and others, coming from the African Development Bank. You can find more detail of why they said so on page 8. And on Naira depreciation, inflation eroding value of insured asset, where we have the Rider Flinder story. Operators transfer more risks to reinsurers, and then we have capital flight through insurance to rise, and then premium set to raise, and operators advise inflation benchmarking. Fears of resurgence in insurance apathy looms. You can find more detail of that story on page 20. And on Edo 2024, APC gets 3 candidates threatening legal action. Akbar threatening legal action. APC gets 3 candidates. Akbar threatening legal action. You can find detail of that on page 28. The big story for the Vanguard says hardship paralyzing lives nationwide, coming from the Catholic bishops and Khan, with the writer saying Nigeria in her worst of time with insecurity, economic craft. And then we have ad hunger causing serious humanitarian crisis, federal government working to resolve economic challenges, and others, coming from the SGF. More detail of the story can be found on page 5. Power grid drops to 3,530 megawatts as rationing persists nationwide. 12 die as bandits set fire on 17 houses in Kaduna village. You can find more detail on page 6. And on food crisis, face governance, governance, federal government, APC slam the PDP governors. On food crisis, face governance, federal government, APC slam the PDP governors. We saw that from last week. And then still on the paper, presidency, Atiku at war over federal government forex policies. More detail found on page 5. And we also have on 2026 World Cup qualifiers, Bafana will beat Super Eagles. We can see how they intend to do that. You find more detail of what they want to do on page 38 for sports. We have a picture story showing Tinubu at the AU Summit. More detail of the story can be found inside the paper, and that's all on Vanguard newspaper.
On Blueprint newspaper, direct entry, JAM, MEBA, ABU, UNN, IMT orders from 2024 admission. Benue property COI records 1.6 billion naira losses in 5 years. Capital importation to Nigeria declines to $3.89 billion in 2023. And then we have Tochukwu's debut goal leaves Sporting Lagos as Kwara Remo Stars peak away points. This is on sports, and you can find details on page 14. The big story, bandits killed 12, burn 17 houses in Kaduna community, kidnapped 9 women in Zamfara, Plateau APC spokesman killed. Governor Sani saddened by renewed attacks. Labaja charges troops on diligence and commitment. You can find details on page 8. Focus on your mandate. Don't distract Tinubu. Federal government tells PDP governors they are banned of doomsday vocalists. This is APC replying back to PDP governors. And then we have sachets of pure water cost 50 naira in Enugu State. African Development Bank reports put Africa's GDP at 3.8% in 2024. Lassa fever claims 10 in Ebonyi State. You can find details on page 9. Police nab 5 recover UNWFP diverted goods. At the downside of the paper on illegal mining, EFCC arrests 2 Chinese, 1 other in Ilorin. We have a picture story where we can see the president of Brazil together with Nigerian president at the at the AU summit, and that's all the news on Blueprint newspaper.
Well, I'm happy that EFCC are beginning to make arrests, and I think we've been talking about this, the fact that most of the people who are causing chaos and trouble for us when it comes to illegal mining are mostly foreigners, and we wonder how they get access to all of these mining sites. Most times they are not the ones doing it directly. They work together with the locals to actually mine. And I'm just hoping that we have more arrests, because I know that they are more than this. But then the better place to start, and I'm happy that EFCC is giving all their best to make sure that they apprehend the people who are behind this, because we're losing a number of natural resources as a result of people doing illegal mining. Now, Rachel, 15 naira pure water in Enugu State is really something that we should talk about. Imagine if the government have made water available. I know that the reason why the price possibly is because of the leathers they need, and then other resources, the fuel they need, and all of that. So to some extent, you can actually say, okay, we really do not see a reason. I mean, it was still Enugu, we saw a bag of cement is about 13,000 or so. So that is to tell you that the cost of living is getting higher by the day. Now, what is the government trying to do? What modalities have they put in place to make sure that we'll be able to regulate the prices of all of this? And this is just water, Richard, and we know that water is essential. Water is life. And then here we are having water going to 15 naira. So just imagine for people who cannot have access to good, clean drinking water, and they have no choice than to buy. So how much would a bag of water cost right now? If one is 50, that means the bag of pure water will go over 500 naira or so. Yeah. So I am hoping that the government of Enugu, not just in Enugu State, but every other government, will make it a top priority to make sure that they provide credible and clean drinking water for Nigerians. Where there are no boreholes, it's time for them to drill the borehole there. Where you know that they're having a problem with those who have collapsed and they need to be possibly rehab and all of that, the government should do that, Richard, because by the day, we're beginning to become a country that really a number of people cannot tell what is happening. Each day you wake up, it seems as if the trumpet will blow, maybe Jesus Christ will become. That is how things are becoming so terrible and so bad in the country. And I'm hoping that, yes, I mean, you have the right to say the APC governor should concentrate on their mandate, but what are you doing? Let's take Plateau State for instance. Richard, I will tell you, I do not know the last time I saw water. So we have to provide water for ourselves. That is how bad it is. Yes, are they providing water in other places? Yes. But sometimes the excuse is coming from the government or from the water ministry. The reason why they cannot give you water is something you cannot help. It's either they tell you that the pipe is spoiled, they did not pay NEPA bill, and there's some very excuses. I just wonder, is this thing happening really in this country? Are they not supposed to be a synergy between the power and together with water, so that they see how they can work together to make sure that everybody have what is needed? Just take a look at the weather. You know that it is needed. We saw on the paper the reason why we need to take more water, and then here we're having water 15 naira. So I'm hoping that the government, actually, it might look like something very funny to the government, but I'm hoping that they will really pay attention to this and do something regarding providing good drinking water for Nigerians, so that we don't get to that point. And then gradually we see that they put other modalities to make sure that manufacturers will also have all that they need to produce at a very minimal price, so they don't need to exploit Nigerians just so that they'll be able to make their gains at the end.
So for everything we buy in this country, we are paying more for the cost of operation rather than the cost of the product precisely. It's water we're talking about here, and then the sachet is 50. You obviously know that it's not 50 cl of water that is 15 naira. You know that for sure. is the packaging. And at this point, it's not even the packaging. You know why? Because when it comes to plastic, precisely, we now recycle in the country. So over the years, it's not even supposed to cost that much. But I believe that for water in specific, as it is now, is the electricity bill
Of course,
that these companies are using to manufacture this thing that we are paying for, is the high cost of diesel, is the unavailability, is the high continual hike in unit price, is all the the cost of operation that we're literally paying for when it comes to purchasing these goods and services, not actually the content or the product that we want to consume. And for long, that is how it has been in this country, where you will buy the same 400 grams of milk, for example, in sachet is 500 naira. In a tin, in a can,
of course,
is 1,000 naira. What are you
instance.
paying for, obviously? Is it that the milk in the sachet is different or taste? No, it's the same company, it's the same product, it's the same. You are paying for the tin. Why? Because we're importing this metal. We're importing, when our steel rolling mills are wasting and lying down, and we are not mining this thing, we are leaving illegal miners to come, all of that. And then you find out that you're paying for what you shouldn't even pay for in the first place. And that has been our system for long, for many, many years. And you can talk about the water board in Nigeria. It's just, I mean, on the plateau precisely, it's just a corrupt system. When last did you see water? But water board is selling water every day, because some years back they brought out a scheme called Water is Life, that tankers go and distribute water to people's houses. What happened to the pipe? What happened to the normal channeling water to houses and people pay bills? But because selling water is more profitable, they rather sell the water than make it available for you in the normal way. So when we sit down, we see it's just but a corrupt system that has refused to function over the years. And for some reason, we are being hopeful day after day, administration after administration, governance after governance, that there would be some change. But the decay just keeps showing itself one way or another. If not, can't you say, shouldn't I just boil the water and drink it? But guess what? Just as you said, people don't have access to that clean water, clean enough for them to say, okay, let's just go back to the old ways before there was anything called sachet water. We grew up just boiling water, storing it, putting it in one filter or putting it in cans. That was the way forward. But now, even if people will say, let's go back to doing that, how many people have access to clean water? Because there was once a time we had running taps and all of that, and there wasn't that much pollution as it is. So you could say your well is safe, you could say there is water running through the taps and all of that. But now, do we have that available as it is? So you just find out that for long there has been a continuous decline in the standard of living in Nigeria. And I think Nigerians try to say there is hope, not to, keep hammering or keep dwelling on what is not going wrong. But our standard of living has been decreasing. It's just getting worse as the day goes by. But then nothing is as it was before. Nothing that we started good is where it is. Nothing is moving on well. We are just depreciating. It's not only our currency selling, even the standard of living, even the services that the government is
providing, of
everything keeps going down. Yeah.
Richard, it's quite a sad one. I mean, each day you just wake up to one sad story after another. But just like you said, we are still hopeful. Yeah. I believe that if we will get it right, if we are willing to get it right eventually. Well, let's take a look at this day newspaper where we have Komolafa, Nigeria gradually reversing investment decline in oil and gas industry. African Development Bank says the rising oil prices increasing production to support Nigeria's economy in 2024. Here we have Nigeria, Brazil seeks stronger ties across sector. Tinubu da Silva meeting Addis Ababa. You can find detail of what the discussion was on page 8. Labour Party crisis gets messier as Opara drag Abure to court. Well, we hope to hear how this end result of the 3.5 billion naira fraud or allegation will turn out to be. You can follow up that story on page 40. Coming from Idris, it's time PDP governors did work they were elected for. says Tinubu will not appreciate his responsibility. And then opposition governors idle, vigorous, complicit, APC declares. You can find more detail of what they said on page 5. The big story coming from the CBN governor, Cardoso, says $1.8 billion inflow last week. Nigeria's economy has positive outlook. With the rider, Akume promises living costs will drop soon. We look forward to that. Bishop says government reform counterproductive. You can find more of that in the paper. Coming from the former vice president, Nigeria has insufficient, unstable, precocious reserve to support free floating rate regime. Presidency berate ex-VP insists facts modeled up. And then Naira's free fall jeopardizing my plan for Bauchi. Mohammed laments. You can find more detail of all of these on page 5. And then new analysis, blame game won't stop Naira free fall, and I hope that our government will realize that. So you can look up more of that on page 5. We are having this picture story as well here on the 37th section of the African Union Summit. You can find more detail in the paper. And that's all on this day newspaper.
On Nigerian Tribune, Edo APC governorship candidate Ganduje congratulates Idahosa. We have a Pebola kicks. You can find details on page 27. Rising cost of living could spark social unrest in Nigeria, orders African Development Bank warns. 37 million euros investment in Nigeria's power sector to support mini-grids after project. This is coming from EU. You can find details on page 6. We will fix rising cost of cement in 30 days if coming from producers. You can find details on page 6. Benue raises alarm over illegal mining activities. The big story on the paper, federal government APC knocked PDP governors again as Atiku bishops X-rate Tinubu's policies and reforms. PDP governors distracting Tinubu with calls for resignation. Federal government says stop reckless utterances. APC tells PDP governors government reform agenda worsening Nigeria's situation. Coming from Catholic bishops, Nigerians can't keep quiet. Tinubu's policies causing pain, distress. A statement coming from Atiku. I mean, like the statement coming from this Catholic bishop it's a little bit funny. I find it hilarious. Like, there's no week, there's no day we don't see one statement, and it's just Catholic bishops. The tag, who are the Catholic bishops making this statement? It's like we just have a tag, Catholic bishop saying this, Catholic bishop saying that, and all of that. I know he's trying to say that every leaders and everybody, because last week we saw that of the Sultan talking to Remy, telling her, tell your husband people are hungry and all of that. And for me, it's important to see that everybody is saying, but I don't like the umbrella of Catholic bishops. Okay. Who is making that statement, and what precisely are you saying, and then who are you addressing it to? We are the system that we need individuals with voices to speak. When it comes from an opposition party, it is a problem. But I believe that when it comes to a body that is not supposed to be on any side, there will be an impact. So rather than the whole umbrella of Catholic bishops, let's hear this person is saying this, let's hear that person is saying that. Let's know the different angle, because I don't want to believe that you think the same way I do, or you feel that this is the solution. Yeah, we might be on the same ground concerning certain things, but let's see some individual differences on who is saying this and who is saying that. It will go a long way than just the umbrella voices, and then it's starting to feel like it's just the way of the paper saying, okay, we have the Christian body saying this, so let's just umbrella exactly under the umbrella of Catholic bishops. But we would like to know precisely. I would like to know who precisely under this umbrella of Catholic bishops are they saying, and what is their point of view, and hoping that, you know what, we'll have a government that will respond directly to these people and all of that, rather than just, you know, okay, if you feel that the opposition party are coming because they are still having a hangover of defeat, why are you not responding to what the Sultan is saying? Why are you not responding to what the Catholic bishops are saying? Why are you not responding to what the elder statesmen are
Why are you only carried away by what your opposition party is saying, in as much as everybody is saying the same thing? However, your issue and your problem is the one that is faulty and wrong, despite it being the same with what everybody is saying, is what is coming from the opposition party. And this is where you know that sometimes our politicians and our leaders are jokers, because why are you selective in who you feel this is not
who you
shouldn't attack in the first place? So I mean, this is a level of unseriousness that shows, okay, you know what, are these people even listening? Because you're a government, you're supposed to listen, and will you eventually do the work that is expected of you, or you're just in a place where you feel we will do what we want to do?
You know, Richard, there's one thing if it's just coming from opposition party, or if it's just coming from a religious body. But here we're also seeing the African Development Bank saying the same thing again, that with what is happening, this is going to cause unrest. And Rachel, this is not to be a prophet of doom, but then the unrest will be worse than hashtag answers if the government do not do something. Rachel, you know what it means when you're hungry, you are angry. Every little thing would just irritate you, piss you off, and you're just looking for a way. Okay, well, see, water is not even available. So if you can't even have access to water, not to even talk about the one that is talking about food, and then people are saying, okay, no protein whatsoever. Then we are seeing government last week saying that they have sent 42,000 tons of grains, and then the grains, I don't know if it has reached Plateau State, because I'm yet to see the grain. Maybe they are still trying to put one or two things, logistics and all of that, to send it. So just like you said, we just hope we'll have a particular person. I believe during Buhari's regime, we saw where Bishop Kuka was always talking. So it was more like Bishop Kuka said this, Bishop Kuka said that, and then even though he came under attack from some people, his house, and then, but then we had somebody who was bold enough to come out and talk. And I get your point when you said, rather than us having an umbrella, there should be somebody who said this particular thing. But regardless of who said it, whether an umbrella or not, I just believe that the government, if you know there is a work to be done, you should do it. And I keep telling people, do not get dragged in what all this, whether it's the ruling party or the opposition party. Politicians will always be politicians. They will only make you believe what they want you to see, but believe you me, they dine and dwell behind doors where you are not aware of. So forget about what they say, but then as a patriotic citizen of the country, it is your responsibility to hold them accountable. In as much as we're saying that your number one responsibility is to protect life and property, provide food as well. There are basic things that, I mean, I shouldn't even be begging the government. You were the one who said you wanted to be the president. You were the one who said you wanted to be the governor. So, I mean, and I keep saying that if only these people knew before the election, I said, if only they knew the work that was on ground, they wouldn't be beating themselves to campaign for all of this thing, because it was work.
They don't want to do the work. They want the benefits that
so
come with
there's
the
no, you cannot jump the process and just want the produce. It doesn't work that way. You have to follow the process, and this is what we want from our government. When we're talking about governance, you have to put in the work, do all that is needed, so that together alongside the benefit definitely comes. I mean, nobody's going to deny your allowances that comes in here, but I'm just hoping that that's why I keep saying, forget about who said this. If you know you're doing the right thing, fine. If you know you're doing wrong, it's time for you to put your head and see, how can we get it right? There is no food. What can we do to provide food? Security, we are seeing Benue is complaining, illegal mining as well. So apart from the fact that there have been killings in Benue, we are also having the issue of intruders coming in for illegal mining. So I'm hoping that the government, just like you said, they should concentrate on the work. I mean, thinking about the fact that there's three years plus or 7 regarding on how we think is what Nigerians cannot just live with. You need to go to social media sometimes you wonder really. So I'm hoping that the government will do something regarding all of these things, and then let us have people being responsible. If you say you want to rule, please rule with all diligence eventually.
Still on Nigerian Tribune, NDLEA arrests female lawyer, mom, boyfriend, herbalist, Uber driver over illicit substances. AFCC arrests 2 Chinese, 1 other for suspected illegal mining in Kwara. Kidnappers use poisonous snake to terrorize us. This is coming from victims, and this is a sad encounter. You can find details on page 27. Bandits burn 12, raise 17 houses in Kaduna State. Resident doctors declare indefinite strike in Ekiti University Teaching Hospital over alleged attack by security operatives on member. Details can be found on page 8. Still a picture story showing President Bola Tinubu and President Da Silva of Brazil, and that's all news on Nigerian Tribune.
Right on the Guardian newspaper, unstable forex rates and inflation. More pains for household firms as price gouging unsettled economy. Here we're having the picture of our president. We're also having that of the picture of our finance minister, and then defense and other people who are at the head of affairs in their various places and how they can influence the way things are going in the country. You can find more detail of that on page 6. Naira crisis to double prices of meter as manufacturers seek liberalization. You can find more on page 3. Security agents intercept trucks of smuggled diverted food items at borders. More can be found in the paper. Catholic bishop for Tinubu's reform at CBN preaches hope. Tinubu violate oath of office by appointing son-in-law, says Herua. You can find more of that on page 30. SPT action against insecurity, inflation, reps tell Tinubu. And then we have certificate racketeering as an albatross of education sector. You can find more of that on page 4. And that's all on the Guardian newspaper. But before we continue further with other paper review, we would love to take a break at this moment. Quite a lot of stories to show on the paper. We're seeing that illegal mining is not just in one part of the country right now. We're having various states coming out to talk about illegal mining. And I think that this really needs the attention of the federal government. We would love to hear your own take about that, the attack that took place in Kaduna, and then in also part of the country where we're having one issue after another, bodies coming out to talk about the policies that are actually pushing a number of Nigerians into hardship. So we would love to hear what your own views are concerning any of the story. Please stay tuned with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Hello viewers, my name is Amaka Ocheke. We anchor the program, The Living Room, right here on Equa TV International.
You are welcome to watch us every Monday.
The Living Room is a very interesting family program where we discuss everything you want to know about family.
Talk about our children's mental health.
Keep watching. Our program is always here, 5:30 every Monday. We want you to ask questions. We want you to phone in and drop topics that you want us to talk about, even on our media handle on Facebook. We're there. So keep watching, keep listening. The Living Room.
Make your everyday informative, make your everyday count. Know your world, daily affairs, national and international, with authentic news events as they unfold on Global News and Zoom on Nigeria, Monday to Friday at 1 p.m.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, the program is the Dailies. We have been looking at a number of stories on the paper, the president during the African Union Summit in Ethiopia, and then also we are having a number of stories where we are having Atiku, PDP governors, Catholic bishop, and even the African Development Bank talking about the hardship in the country, which they feel that the hunger actually can cause unrest in the country. We have a number of things back and forth, and we are hoping that the government are paying attention to all of these concerns being raised by various bodies. I'm Sarah Elisha. I still have Rachel Tanley with me in the studio. Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome, Sarah.
All right. Remember, you can drop your views on Facebook and on YouTube concerning any other story that is of interest to you in the paper. And we shall continue with a paper review looking at the Daily Times newspaper.
On the Daily Times newspaper, equity market up 2.1 trillion naira to wrap up the week with 57.850 trillion naira gain. You can start with the details on the front page. The big story on the paper, Atiku Tinubu in verbal war over forex crisis and naira slide. Current economic mess created by Mefle, says Akpabio. Tinubu meets Brazilian president, seeks stronger ties. Estate developers groan as bag of cement sells for 15,000 naira. You can find details on page 2. NDLEA intercepts illicit drug consignment from U.S. Gunmen kill Plateau APC publicity secretary. You can find details on page 4. We have a picture story where we see the Lagos state government commence the cleanup of shanties occupied by squatters under the Obalande Bridge in the Etiosa local government area of the state. And that's all the news on the Daily Times newspaper.
On Daily Independent newspaper, Syrup gives NNPCL 7 days to account for missing $2.04 billion, 164 billion naira oil revenues. Tinubu wrong policies, costs of untold pain to Nigerians. You can find more detail in the paper. Forex crisis shrinks Nigerian Airlines aircraft to 44 from 107. 63 commercial airplanes grounded. Industry bleeding, federal government helpless. This is coming from stakeholders. Escalating price of cement, infrastructural development on the thread. REDAN cries out, urges the federal government stakeholders to do something urgently about that. And we have NTTA protest exclusion from payment of withheld varsity worker salary. More detail found on page 6. Gunmen kill Plateau APC spokesman and one other person. You can find more detail on page 6. Military warn against inclusion as Lagos Airport airside as FAN reopens runway 18R 60 and 36 LTI months after. More detail found on page 6. Why we upheld jail term 20 billion naira fine against ex-BPE boss. This is coming from Okon, and then coming from the Supreme Court rather, why we upheld jail term 20 million naira fine against the ex-BPE boss Okon, coming from the Supreme Court. And then here we're having from the African Union Summit, Tinubu in talks with Lula da Silva. More detail on page 7. Despite CBN push, naira falls to all-time low. Trades at 1,007 to $1, 1,537 naira at the parallel official window. Analyst says forex crisis require physical site major effort. More detail of that can be found in the paper. And downside of the paper, federal government cheats PDP governors over call for resignation of Tinubu. More detail in the paper. We have two picture story. One is the president together with the Ethiopian president, and then downside is also the governor of Lagos State during an inspection at the Red Rhine Infrastructural Lagos on Sunday. And that's all on Daily Independent newspaper.
On the matrix, rising cost of living, African Development Bank warns about looming social unrest in Nigeria and others. Projects Africa's growth to rebound to 3.8% in 2024. Surging cement prices and building material costs force developers to abandon projects nationwide. In 2026 World Cup qualifiers, Super Eagles suffer major injury blow ahead South Africa and Benin fixtures. You can find more details on page 16. The big story on the paper, again, Atiku presidency trade tackle over federal government policies. We can't keep quiet as Tinubu's policies are causing more hardship for Nigerians. Coming from Atiku, says Nigeria needs sufficient FX reserves to operate a successful fixed exchange rate system. Atiku's claim that FX management policy was hurriedly put together false. We have proposed terrors coming from the federal government. Argues that CBN policies to stabilize Naira already yielding some positive results. I don't know what are the positive results that Nigerian can see, but then we are waiting to see. You can find details on page 2. And on Edo Guba, APC crisis deepens as third candidate emerges. BUA announces 50% salary increase for workers. You can find details on page 10. And on exchange rate, why NARC is set to increase price of prepaid meters. You can find details on page 14. And then this is on entertainment, Sabi Boy's journey of musical mastery. Economic mess and woes federal government unsure what to charge MFLA with, says Apabio. Serap demands account of missing oil revenues from NNPCL within 7 days. We have picture story where we can see the President African Development Bank together with Bill Gates. This is towards a more resilient Africa, and that's all the news on the Matrix newspaper.
Richard, I have a problem with the Senate President's speech. The fact that they said they do not know what to start charging, because from the look of things, we are looking at who to blame for why we are where we are, or how we got to where we are.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to a government that will not be pointing fingers, because we said for each time you point a finger, 4 are pointing back at you. That is to say, you have something to do. As a Senate President, it's a question I believe Nigerians want to ask the President. What laws, what bills have you passed ever since you got into that seat to make sure that you'll be able to reduce the hardship on Nigerians? Here we're coming out seeing the Senate President stating the fact that he's going to talk about the arms that the former CBN governor acquired, or talking about printing of Naira without profit, or talking about a number of things. And it seems as if, yes, of course, I mean, MFLA needs to answer to the law. We keep saying the fact that the law is king. Therefore, if you are found wanting, you should face the full wrath of the law. But then we also said that that as the rule of law, nobody is above the law. So rather than, blaming or trying to say you do not know where to start charging, unsure of what to charge MFLA with, I mean, already the counts are there before the court, so they should do their work. But as lawmakers, what are you doing in your own part to make sure that, let the right thing be done? Last week, we saw where reps were talking about we going back to parliamentary system of government. Maybe that will make our leaders be more accountable to the legislature, knowing the fact that, the parliament has so much to do. So that is to say that regardless of whether you are a lawmaker, you have a role to play in what is happening in Nigeria. So rather than say you do not know what to counter with, the counts are already there. Let us see a house that's planning on doing something for Nigerians, regardless of who went wrong. What are you doing right now to fix it? Because it looks more like saying, I mean, Nigeria is in a mess. We do not know where to start cleaning from. You know where to start. You knew what you were coming, and I will repeat it again. When you said you wanted to be the Senate President and then campaigning was left, right, and center about that, you know what you were signing up for. So why say you do not know where to start from? I just believe that Nigerians need leaders that are more accountable and planning to take responsibility rather than saying you do not know where to start from.
Send simple questions. Under whose administration was the currency floated? Tinubu. Under whose administration was subsidy removed? President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Under whose administration are we yet to see piloting, wage reward, minimum wage review, and all of that? CNG buses, students' loan, all of these promises. After whose administration are we seeing this massive free fall of our currency, and diesel is now as high as over 1,400 to a liter? Under whose administration? So why would we sit down and then just decide to blame one man for the problem of this economy, which clearly some of the very bad decisions that were being made that have gotten us to where we are within a short period of time wasn't made by him? So how? He has done his, we are still under investigation. MFLA is not a clean man. There are so many wrongs and all of that. under his administration, yes. But he is not the reason why the dollar is currently at 1,700 naira at the black market and then over 1,500 at the official market. He is not the reason. We've had, over the years, we've had decline in our currency value, yes, but not this much, not this outrageous free fall. This just started happening within the short period of time that President Ahmed Tinubu became the president of the country. And why are we having the free fall? Because you decided to float a poor currency. You decided to float a currency that is not in demand. This is solely your administration. Because if there's any reason goods are going high in the market, it's because of that. Can we talk about the fuel pump price of diesel and then petrol that is making businesses to shut down? It's not a method that removes subsidy. So how are we pointing the finger of the economic chaos to one man? When of course there are charges, there's his corrupt case, there's the money embezzlement, there's the fraud attached to him. Yes, there is that. But no, our economic crisis is far from him. Let's look at it. If as hard as the policy, right, as hard as the policy concerning Naira redesign was on Nigeria, and there might be a lot of conspiracies and elite war is blah, blah, blah. He had the backing of President Buhari at that time to go ahead and do that. Now, what was the aim of that currency redesign? Was to take back currency in circulation outside, and then for the Central Bank of Nigeria to be able to achieve some regulation within it. So that one of the reasons we have a free fall in our currency, apart from the fact that it's not in demand, is that we have it too much in circulation within us and it's not being demanded outside Nigeria. And then that was one of the things the central bank was trying to do, to say, you know what, we need to stop the excess flow of our Naira out there. If we're able to do a new note, we control the flow of that new note outside, and then we're able to retract back the trillions of Naira that are out there that is making the Naira just, you know, just too much out there and depreciating. And for some reason, it wasn't implemented well. But looking at if there was ample time given to this,
for implementation,
we would have gone a long way. So come to think of it, how can we sit down? He has his fraud issues and corruption, no doubt. But for us to have an administration now beginning to point a hand to a man and saying our economic reason, then you wonder, are you guys really going to do the work? Are our leaders really going to do the work? Or are they going to sit down and point out to clearly the obvious fact that, you know what, this person might be corrupt and a criminal, but he's not the reason why the Naira is at 1,500 in an exchange window. He's not the one who removed fuel subsidy. He's not the one he's not the reason behind multinationals going and moving. He's not the one behind our grid collapse. He's not the reason behind all of that. And yet we're having all of these things, and you just decide to point fingers at one person when there are all the rest are just pointing back at you.
You know, Richard, I just can't wait to see government that will come on seat and not be in the business of blame. Exactly. Always pushing the blame. We had that during the Buhari regime, blaming the PDP. It seems as if the first tenure was all about blame game. And then finally you tell us that you didn't have the time because they're trying to fix what the former regime, which I'm waiting for a government that will come and not blame anybody for the reason why things are. You knew this was how bad things were before you accepted to be on seat. And just like we said, we just hope, I mean, Emefiele was not the president of Nigeria. He was just a worker, a citizen that was
taking orders from another person.
So
top.
Let us try to get our facts right in this country. Well, let's take a look at New Telegraph newspaper, where we have charges. 7 banks earned 418.17 billion naira from fee commission. More detail can be found inside the paper. At the AU summit, Tinubu made da Silva wants closer economic ties with Brazil. More detail on page 4. Ex-NADECO chief task to Tinubu, fix Nigeria's economy, allow Abiola's spirit to rest. You can find more detail of why they said so. Legislator push for parliamentary government split, lawyers. More detail on page 6, 14, and 15. Custom nears end-to-end automation, set up steering committee. The big story, Tinubu's reform agenda turning millions to beggars. Still, Catholic bishop. As Atiku says, president lack ideas to fix economy. Hardship can lead to social unrest in Nigeria, Ethiopia, Angola, and Kenya, coming from the African Development Bank. We will overcome current challenges, federal government tells the PDP governors. President won't resign, minister says. More detail inside the paper. And then Power Grid drops to 3,530 megawatts. Bid on additional states for the Southwest may rekindle debate on pending demands. And then Plateau APC Publicity Secretary shot dead. More detail on page 6. Federal government not sure of crime to charge MFLA with, says Apabio. More detail on page 4. Fuel scarcity looms as tank drivers withdraw services, queues return in Lagos. And we hope something will be done about the logistics and other things that they complained about so they can get back to work, because if we're having queue returning in Lagos, it's a matter of time it will spread to every other part of the country. So we hope something will be done on that. And then downside, we have a very, very important study that says taking paracetamol regularly increases the risks of deadly diseases. So for every little pain, you take a painkiller. We're being warned about that, and I think this is a study that everybody should take interest in. So you can find more detail of that on page 27, and that's all the New Telegraph newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, Shetima, Kumer, Pabio, Wike, hardship over soon. Petrol tanker owners suspend product loading. You can find details on page 6. Stimulate local production to end forex crisis. You can see this business interview on page 18 and 19. And then we have a tribute coming from Senator Jamal Ibrahim. This is concerning Rotimi Akeredolu. As we know, there are plans for his burial coming up soon. This is, I believe, to the family, and then a farewell to a man that brought about Omoteku, and we saw how that has helped in his state. And that's all the news on the Nation newspaper.
On Nigerian news, direct federal government slam PDP governors, call for Tinubu's resignation as distraction from economic relief effort. Lagos to commence full enforcement of Star Road ban today. You can find more of that on page 30. Bandit kill 9 persons, abduct 35 others in Kaduna State. African Development Bank warns inflation could lead to protests and violence in Nigeria, and they mentioned the countries apart from Nigeria that have been affected. And then Edo 2024 confusion tears APC apart as 3 aspirants lay claim to governorship ticket, where we are seeing some riders on the raid. So we hope that they'll be able to get their act straight concerning the Edo 2024. Accounts for missing $2.04 billion, 164 billion naira oil revenue in 7 days, Serap tells NMPCL Limited. More detail found in the paper. We have a picture story. You can do well to grab the paper in more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On Punch Sport Extra, we have Nigerians abroad looking at players, and both female and male players doing their best in their various teams. Master dribbler Simon. We have Hoodlon Brace and United win, as we have seen Man United winning over Luton 2-1. Chelsea to trigger £111 million of Seaman release clause. Rashford favorite to replace Mbappe at PSG. Pep backs Haaland amid misses. Arteta wants more from Gunners. At the downside of the paper, Toriola laments Quadri's WTTC absence. Sunday Olajide 100 million spots at African Games. The big story on the paper, oh not again. Scare for Forest as Owoni suffers another injury. And that's all the news on Punch Sports Extra.
And on Business Day newspaper, petrol subsidy nears 1 trillion naira monthly, surpasses pre-Tinubu levels. Detail found on the front page and continue on page 31. And the big story again, another by the side that say Naira loses 69% of its value against the dollar since the forex reforms. Investors eye higher interest rate as Nigeria sell record 2.5 trillion naira bonds. Detail on the paper. And power tariff at service estate spike on rising diesel costs. You can find more detail also in the paper. And that's all on business day, and also how far we can go on the program this morning. Thank you, Rachel, for doing
You're
this
welcome,
with me.
Sarah.
And also thank you to our viewers, thank you to our supporters, and thank you to all the crew members for keeping and also helping and making sure that this program is prompt on air. Until we come tomorrow, to have a blessed day ahead.